Good evening. Good evening and welcome to this event, this meeting with Emanuele Coccia. The Italian Culture Institute of Tokyo is pleased to participate also this year at the European Literature Festival in Tokyo with the writer Emanuele Coccia. And I want to thank the European delegation for organizing this wonderful event. And I want to thank Emanuele Coccia for accepting to participate as well and to share his thoughts about a theme which has been for all of us extremely important in these last years, the house. What we talk about when we talk about the house. Emanuele Coccia has already been in Tokyo a few years ago, and we hope sincerely that he will be with us also very soon in the next future. Now I will give a floor to my colleague Fukugawa-san to give you a brief introduction to Emanuele Coccia. Thank you.
それでは本日ご講演くださるエマヌエレ・コッチャについてご紹介します。イタリアの一般家庭に生まれた子どもたちは、一般的に普通科の公立高等学校、つまり古典高校や科学高校に通い、ラテン語やギリシャ語、歴史や哲学、数学や物理などを学びます。それは大学での勉強に備えさせるため、また将来の夢やキャリアを見据え、知識と教養を形成するためにも、先ほど挙げた科目の一般教養と専門知識を学ぶことが一番適しているとされているからです。一方、コッチャ氏は農業に必要な知識と技能を習得し、卒業後すぐに農業従事者として働くことに特化した職業学校、いわゆる農業学校に通いました。コッチャ氏はその後、もちろん職業学校のカリキュラムにはない一般教養と専門科目を独学で自分のものにすることができましたが、農業学校での経験をとても大切にしました。植物との触れ合いによって植物の世界を半径とした新しい存在論を示す画期的な著作、La vita delle piante が生まれただけではなく、具体的な日常の世界、それはつまり道徳的規則に基づく理性、いわゆるカントの実践理性と常に対峙してきた痕跡がコッチャ氏の施策の工程に強く現れています。なお、ラビータ・デレピアンテは日本語にも訳され、2019年に植物の性の哲学のタイトルで出版されています。2005年に出版された La trasparenza delle immagini, Averroe e Averroismo イメージの透明性、アベロエスとアベロエス主義はコッチャ氏の研究の根底をなす著作で、中世ヨーロッパと古典ギリシャ哲学の偉大な媒介者であるイスラーム教徒の哲学者で医学者のアベロエスについて書かれたくめども尽きぬ知識の泉とも呼ぶべき研究書です。詩はここで想像力という能力に着目します。アベロエスが生きていた当時、そしてその後数世紀にわたり、想像力という言葉の意味は漠然としていました。想像力とその想像力の活用を司るプロセスは、医学という実践的な学問に作用すると同時に、哲学という最もつかみどころのない研究にも影響を及ぼします。具体と抽象、感覚と知性、神性と人間性、これらの間をめぐる施策は、マチェラータ大学時代の恩師であるイタリアの哲学者、ジョルジョ・アガンベントの共著で出版した重要なアンソロジー、アンジェリ、エブライズモ・クリスティアネズモ・イスラム、天使について、ユダヤ教、キリスト教、イスラム教のメインテーマにもなっています。アガンベンの代表作といえば、 1977年に出版されたスタンツェ、La parola e il fantasma nella cultura occidentale。スタンツェ、西洋文化における言葉とイメージです。この本はコッチャ氏に大変強い影響を及ぼしています。というのも、コッチャ氏の中世哲学に対する興味だけでなく、そこから出発して独自性と新規性を持って哲学と文学の実践を研究に反映させていることが彼のその後の業績から見て取れるからです。彼の著作の中で特徴的なのは、理論的思想から自身の思い出が交錯し、詳細な逸話から包括的精察を論じていることです。例えば、自身が双子であるという一見ありふれた経験から、私という主体と世界との間に広がる普遍的類似性について考えることで、普遍的友愛という概念を見直し、修正し、再構築していきます。コッチャ氏の文章は驚きと示唆に富み、本を閉じた後も読む人の心の中に残ります。それは感覚と知性を、また具体と抽象を結びつけようとし、目に見えず触れることさえできないものを作品へと可視化し、はっきり知覚できるものに成熟させていくことを生業とする芸術家たちにとって、特に彼の著作は傾聴するに値します。2011年に出版したラビータ・センシビレ、知覚する性では、合理性とは異なる感性という能力について着目し、また2014年に出したIl bene nelle cose、商品と善では、広告コミュニケーションの偏在は、私たちが世界のどこにいようとも、商品を選ぶことと情報を得ることについて問題提起をしています。さらに2016年に出版したLa vita delle piante、Metafisica della mescolanza、植物の性の哲学、混合の形而上学では、人間中心主義のヒュブリスから一度離れ、真の創造主である植物の世界に教えを見出すことを私たちに促します。そして今年、エマヌエーレ・コッチャ氏は、Filosofia della casa、家をめぐる哲学という一冊の本の中で、哲学からはないがしろにされていた場所を思索し続けます。一見シンプルに見えるけれども、実は多面的な領域である家というものの中に、もっと言えば浴室や玄関、屋根裏やキッチンの中に、そしてフロイトが言うところの不気味なものの中に、この場合、馴染みのある家という場所に潜む不気味な空間と、私たちとの複雑でドラマチックで悲劇的な関係の中に、世界における我々の存在や幸福への飽くなき追求について、まだ解決するには至らないけれども、解決の手がかりを提示しています。コッチャ氏は、新型コロナウイルスの感染が始まる前にこの本を書き始め、ヨーロッパでロックダウンが始まり、他の人々と同じように家の中にこもり、その間にこの本を書き終えたそうです。この本は新型コロナウイルス感染症やその拡大がもたらした結果についての考察が書かれているわけではありませんが、この経験が私たちにとってどのような意味を持つのかということを考える手がかりを与えてくれます。それでは、エマヌエーレ・コッチャ氏にお話しいただきましょう。お願いします。
So thank you so much. Thank you, first of all, Alberto, for inviting me to present the book. I'm so happy and so honored to be here with you. I have a special relationship to Tokyo. I spent a month some years ago, and it was one of my one of the happiest months I ever spent in my life. And thank you so much, Mitsuko Fukugawa, for the so generous presentation. So I will speak today about the last book I published a couple of months ago in Italy and then in French. And it's a book about houses, homes. Why, first of all, I wrote this book? The very trivial reason why I wrote this book is the fact that I had to move a lot of times in my life, at least 30 times. And I hope, I must say, I hope I can move again because I learned to love this very special and very strange experience. And I owe to this experience of moving also, in a way, the obligation of reflecting about the fact, why are we building homes? Why are we spending so much energy, so much imagination, so much time in order to build, to manage, and to also to give a face, to give an order within our homes. And moving is a peculiar and also a very special occasion in order to understand what a house is. And I must say, I learned what is a home, what we call houses or homes, exactly in the very special, or whenever I was moving. What do you learn when you move? First of all, the first thing you can learn when you're moving is the fact that a home is not a question of space, or it's not a question of a roof and a wall. When you're moving, you see, you can witness the fact that homes is a house is first of all a collection of very heterogeneous things and persons. And those are exactly, I mean, those things and persons you have to carry away with you, you have to bring with you in the new home. So the home in the new space. So the home is not the space, is first of all, this kind of little world. It's a part of the world which is much more world for you. It's the world which has a place for you. It's the kind of transformation of reality which allows to reality to give a space, to give space to you. And this is interesting because in a way, in this particular insight, you can see that the home is an operation on the world itself. And it's a cosmic element and not a sort of private element. The home is really the image of the world we have to build in order to find a place within this world. And the second point, which is interesting, and the fact of moving, is the fact that whenever you move, actually normally you are moving in order to live better. And this particular adverb, the adverb better, expresses, in my opinion, the very essence of what we call home. Actually, the essence of homes is a moral one. We build homes in order to, how can I say, to insufflate, to put more goodness within our lives, to live better, to put more good within our experience. And this is, again, extremely interesting. First of all, because it means that goodness in our lives, it's not a spiritual entity or a purely spiritual or mental dimension. Goodness, it's a form of the world, a collection of elements from the world, of elements in the sense of things and persons, because homes are, of course, very human places. So places haunted and populated by humans. So the goodness, the foundation of our morality is a piece of the world and not something which is within the soul. And in a way, we could define homes as the word or the particular word which becomes the form of your happiness, or the other way around, a home is happiness which has become a form of the world, and which is not just a sentiment, which is not just a feeling, which is not just a can I say a very spiritual movement of your soul. And the second point, which is interesting, or the second consequence of this insight, is the fact that if that's true, if homes is this kind of synonym for happiness, then that means that that in a way morality or ethics, so the science of our happiness, it's not something which concerns will or just will or just the good intentions. It's not something, again, purely spiritual. It's really sort of economy of the world. It's something which implies a material transformation of the world. If happiness embodies itself, first of all, in the form or under the form of a house, then morality is really a theory about the metamorphosis of the world, the transformation of the world. And another point which is interesting is the fact then that if in a way happiness means homes, happiness means a collection of things and persons which allows us to feel happy within this world, that means actually that the world in itself is not naturally, how can I say, doomed, or is not naturally made in order to make our happiness possible. So happiness is not something which is already there, neither in our soul nor outside the world. We have to build homes, we have to transform the world, we have to move stuff, we have to move ourselves, we have to move persons in order to build this kind of magical circle within within the collection of things which made the world habitable for us become possible. So we have to transform, to cook the reality in order to make a home which is happiness possible. And that then that means that happiness is an artifact. Happiness is something artificial. Happiness is something which, exactly like homes, needs to be rearranged every day, in a way, reordered, reconstituted every day. So this is actually the first thesis of the book, the first hypothesis, the first idea of the books and of the book. And since so in a way, I have since what I'm saying is the fact that in order to speak about homes, we have to speak about happiness. In the book, I'm speaking about myself, because you cannot speak about happiness in an abstract way. Happiness is in a way, is the expression of an ego, of an individual. So each chapter of the book is a sort of description of a particular room or space or aspect of homes, but I'm starting each time for a very personal experience, because again, in order to speak about happiness, you have to start to speak about very concrete, very personal experiences. But I'm not, of course, I will not now resume the books. I will just give you a couple of ideas about how can we define homes, and especially how, in my opinion, will homes evolve in the next decades? And in order to do that, I will speak about three objects which are extremely important, in my opinion, in order to understand what a home is. First of all, in terms of, and the three objects are dogs, social media, and pets. So first of all, in order to understand what a home is, we have to look at dogs. It could sound a little bit paradoxical to start about dogs in order to think about homes, but it's a central issue. First of all, from a chronological point of view, because in a way, humanity domesticated dogs before building homes within cities. So before fixing their homes in the space. So that's why, in a way, and it's interesting that we use the term domestication in order to define the relationship that the human species developed with dogs, because domestication comes from the word, from the Latin domus, which means home. So already this fact, the terminology we use in order to express our relationship with dogs tells us something interesting. It tells us that home is, first of all, or has been originally, not just an artifact, but the life of someone other, which belongs to a totally different species. So in a way, home is originally someone else's life, which becomes a space for living for us, and the other way around, because domestication is the fact that we take the life of dogs and we make out of it our space, our world, and we make out of our life the home of dogs. But apart from this, and of course, this event, this domestication, changed forever the destiny of the two species. But apart from this, from this very ancient fact, event of domestication, there is something which is extremely special and extremely interesting, and the fact of letting a dog enter in our homes. And I think that in this gesture, as there is again the core of our domestic experience. First of all, what is interesting to remark in the fact that we normally host homes, dogs in our homes, is the fact that this gesture, the fact that dogs and cats and other little animals are normally our in a way they live within our houses. It means that the house cannot be reduced to family, because if you're thinking about that, each time that you host a dog in your house, you are telling us that home is not and cannot be reduced to genealogy, because you will never have a sort of genealogical relationship with dogs. Dogs are intimate friends or companions, but you will never develop a sort of family in the sense, in juridic, legal sense of the word with them. And that's interesting. So that the first thing that dogs remind us is the fact that intimacy within homes has nothing to do with family in legal terms or family in genealogical terms. Homes are a device, a machine that allows us to produce intimacy, but not in the sense of a legal or of a genealogical bond, of a blood bond. This a kind of intimacy that can become houses are a machine for producing intimacy, which can become become universal. We can trespass the frontiers or the limits of your specific identity. And the second point is exactly this kind of physiology of how can a home produce intimacy, or in which sense homes are machines built in order to produce intimacy. What is interesting in the relationship that we develop with dogs or cats is the fact that after a little while, we stop considering dogs, as belonging to another species. And the other way around is also true, is that these dogs are stopping considering us as human beings. They are considering us as a special, I don't know, perhaps a special dogs or dogs with another forms, or which is exactly how we link to them, or we consider them. They are for us, each of our dogs, each of our cats are for us a sort of intensity, a core of affection, love, friendship, joy, happiness, and so on. So our dog is present in front of us, is visible in front of us, not as a biological entity, but as something which is a sort of chaotic mixture of feelings, extremely strong sentiments, and so on. And this is interesting because it means that in a way, once that the dog enters our house, it loses its identity, and the house, it loses its face, and the house exactly that is in a way a machine or a sort of technology that allows us to lose our face in front of someone who has lost his or her or its own face. This is what's happening not just in the relationship with dogs, but also in the relationship with every other living element or living individual. We need homes in order to trigger this process, in order to let the person we love lose the face, and in order to lose our face in front of the persons we love. And why this experience of losing our face or becoming anonymous, it's so interesting, because it's exactly at this moment that life and love can circulate from one body to another without knowing what belongs to whom, without knowing if it's human, if it's not human, if it's me, if it's the other person, if my partner, my love, and so on. So from this point of view, in the relationship we develop within our homes with dogs, it becomes visible what does it mean to produce a domestic intimacy, and why we, in a way, so radically and strongly need this kind of intimacy. So we need homes in order to lose our identity. We need homes in order to have a relationship with lives, with other lives, with the lives of others, without passing through their identity. Within the homes, every person, in a way, took away its own face or his her own face. So this is the first point, and this is why homes are so important. The second element I would like to speak about, the second object that allows us to understand what is a home. And in this case, it allows us also to understand why home is so in which direction homes will go in the next decades are social media. And now, in order to speak about social media, I would like perhaps to spend a couple of minutes about what happened and what is happening now in the world, that is the pandemic lockdown, because social media, of course, had a huge role, played a huge role within lockdown and allowed us in a way to resist, to survive within the domestic space. But before speaking about that, I would like to stress something which is, in my opinion, extremely important in what happened in the last months. In a way, of course, besides of the tragic elements, besides of the fact that this pandemic produces a lot of deaths of beloved persons, what is interesting in this experience is that I think for the first time in human experience, for the first time in human history, the entire humanity passed through a common experience on a planetary scale. So we can affirm without doubts that every person on the planet had a similar experience, and every person on the planet reacted or had to react, was obliged to stay home, to in a way to have a much more intense relationship with it or her or their domestic space. And this is interesting, of course, because it has changed our relationship with homes. But first of all, it is interesting because I think it's the first time that the human species, humanity, had a common experience in the past. So we have now a common past, which was never the case. So it is as if the virus would have globalized humanity in another sense that the past forms of globalization did. So because, as you know, globalization was a process which started with the conquest of the American continents by Europeans, and the development of economic and political relationships between states and parts of the world. But the virus has globalized our world in another way, in a much more radical, I would say, in how can I say, in the flesh of our experience, in the sense that the virus showed us that every human being possesses one and the same flesh, because, for instance, now the fact that there are still nations, or there are now nations where the COVID, the virus is still arising, it's something which cannot be considered that in a way at far away from us. It's something which doesn't concern us. It's as if the flesh of our body was really linked to the flesh of the people who has now COVID. And that's interesting, this unification of the world, this unification of the flesh, which reproduce a sort of universality, which comes before every kind of differences, every cultural, religious, national, political difference. So this is an important point, because again, whenever you have a common past, you can develop a common future. And from this point of view, it is huge what happened, and it is huge in a positive way. We have the chance now of having the possibility of developing a planetary common future, thanks to these tragical events. But again, let's come back to the question of homes. So what is interesting in what happened in the last let's say 12, 15, 18 months is the fact that the virus caused almost everywhere the death of cities, in the sense that the reaction to the arrival of viruses everywhere was the lockdown of cities. So cities became outlawed spaces. It was not allowed to go there, not allowed to stay there a lot. And we have to, and it was in a way, a very sad experience, or a very tragic and hard experience, because cities were the theater of our freedom. So in a way, cities were founded in order to let the fundamental freedoms of our existence to become possible. The freedom of for instance, producing wealth, which doesn't belong to our genealogy or to our heritage. So the freedom to work, the freedom of learning stuff or knowledge which doesn't coincide with the tradition, with what has been told us by our parents. So the freedom of learning, the freedom of schools, the freedom of universities, and the freedom of developing a life which has nothing to do with duties. So the freedom of entertaining. So cities, if you want, were really the machine which we invented, which modernity at least invented, in order to let this kind of experiences possible. And the end, or the lockdown of cities, was a tragic event, because it, in a way, it made those freedoms, those kind of freedoms, inaccessible. And what happened is that we tried to bring back those freedom home. To bring back home, we tried to, in a way, to start. For instance, we started working home. We started to teaching and to learning through Zoom at home, and we started even, at least in the first lockdown in Europe. There was a very how can I say, very common habitude to make aperitif, to drink in front of friends in Zoom. So we tried to, in a way, to reinvent entertainment with friends within homes. And that's important for two reasons. First of all, because the fact that we bring back what normally or usually took place whenever we lock the door of our homes behind us, it means that we insulated cities or urban spaces or urban experience within homes. So we extended the experience of home. Even now, I'm now at home, and in a way, I extended the experience of domestic space. I extended my domestic experience because it is possible through my home to be with you in Japan. But what is more interesting, and it's the second point, is the fact that we did that. We managed to, in a way, to bring back home whatever took place within cities through these virtual corridors, which are social media, which are Zoom, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and so on. why it is so interesting. Imagine if what would have been the lockdown without these devices. So it would have been impossible, even from a political point of view, because it would have been very difficult to, for instance, to have information and so on. Why it is interesting, this this point? Because in a way, social media or those kind of devices showed their essence. The nature of this device, of this kind of devices, is they are in a way corridors which allows us to pass from a house to another house, bypassing the city. So in a way, they are virtual domestic space. They are like a living room, which allows us to have a very similar experience of the commonness of the community, of the sharing life, which normally we used to have within city, but at home, within our houses. So in a way, we understood in this lockdown, at least I understood, I finally had an insight on the fact that Facebook, social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, they are actually apps based on a domestic imaginary. So in a way, it's not true what we say following McLuhan, that is that internet transformed the world in a global village. Actually, the paradigm, the model for social media is not the public space, it's not the small village, it's the living room. Through WhatsApp, for instance, is it as if we extended in an infinite way our living room? In a way, if you think about that, through WhatsApp, I can, I can speak with a lot of persons, but there are 4, 5, 6 persons with whom I'm speaking every day, and I'm speaking like 10 or 12 times a day. What does it mean? It means that I'm living with them, actually. I mean, it's as if I had a common living room with them, and exactly like in the time of when I were at the university, when I was sharing an apartment with friends who were at the university, and we could have a very short talk in the living room, or someone could enter my room and have a short talk. WhatsApp is something which makes possible exactly this experience, but bypassing the city. So, or extending my home in a universal planetary way, because I can have, for instance, a chat with Alberto, which is in Tokyo, or with a friend which is in Boston, and so on. This is extremely important. So to have the insight that social media are domestic devices. That means that are devices which extended the form and the essence of domesticity, of experiences of home, and devices that also, in a way, changed even the nature of domesticity, not just in a quantitative way. Because if you think about that, through social media, we have a non-spatial form of home. WhatsApp is a living room, which has nothing to do with space, which is really the pure reality of the intimacy we can have with someone who, again, has nothing to do with our family in a genealogic way. So social media extended the domestic space. Social media allows us to think of domestic space beyond space, beyond the fact of geography, produce a sort of intimacy, domestic intimacy which has nothing to do with geography and domestic space. And social media allows us also to understand or to think about domestic intimacy beyond family. And this would be a very important topic in the future, because we used to reduce our domestic experience to family. So the domestic space was the space of family. It will be no more the case in the next decade. First of all, because what happened in the last months, I don't know what is the situation, is extremely important. I don't know what is the situation in Japan, but in Europe, for instance, now the smart working, the fact that you are working at home is becoming a very common reality, I mean, beyond the lockdown. And it is a huge revolution because in a way, the fact that work is coming home is perhaps the most important revolution since the beginning of modernity. If you want modernity, at least European modernity, Western modernity, took place when cities, in a way, took the work, that is the process of producing wealth from houses, from homes, from genealogical spaces. And cities let wealth become a public business, a public affair, and let wealth become a political question. But when houses are taking back work, everything is changing. And what is interesting, I do not have the time of developing this point, but I think it will be really the big topic in the next years. What is interesting is the fact that we have, perhaps in order to reimagine homes, we have to take social media as the new modular. You know, the modern experiences, the modern experience of homes and houses was based on this model of human being made by Le Corbusier, which is a sort of drawing of the human body with a raised arm in order to understand how, I mean, the space, the domestic space should be designed following the dimension of a human body. What we have to develop now is a home which is designed following the links of intimacy we already built through social media, which is to build a home, a mineral home, a real, a concrete home, which corresponds to the bonds of intimacy we already developed. And we had to, in a way, through that, we have to, in a way, to erase this kind of gap between the way how mineral homes are built, which in a way corresponds to a form of intimacy or a form of humanity, which has already disappeared in the last decades. So the idea that homes are spaces for father, mother, and children, because we don't live like that anymore, and we have to redesign, rethink homes, starting from the real experience of intimacy, asking ourselves with whom I am speaking all the time. That is, WhatsApp should become, in a way, the new modular for the coming home. I would like to conclude my short talk with perhaps the master common object within home, which is the bed. And in order to understand, so why I'm talking about bed, first of all, because bed, if you are thinking about that, is really what cannot be not present at home. So a home is a home because there is a bed. There is no home without bed. If there is no bed, there is not a home. It's something different. So the bed is really the core element within homes, within our houses. And yet, even if we barely think about that, a bed is a sort of magical object. I mean, it doesn't matter if you go there alone or in company. It doesn't matter at what time you are going there, but exactly like in fairy tales, the very contact with this object is enough to transform your way of being. Each time that you're going bed, for instance, tonight in a couple of hours, I don't know, or later, so in 4 or 5 hours, you will get bed, and each and every one of you touching the bed will literally disappear. And not really in the sense that no one will be able to find you anymore. You will disappear in a much more radical sense, which is more disturbing, more inexplicable. You will not be able to find yourself. You will experience a very strange, in a way, disintegration. You will slide into a sort of psychic black hole. You will spend hours in this black hole, and none of you will be able to give a detailed witness or testimony of all this time. And this, from this point of view, the bed is a very interesting object because it's a kind of narrowed garage of the soul in which we park our existence every evening in order to be absent. And that's again interesting. That means I said that a bed is the most necessary object of a house. That means that if we need houses, if we need homes, it is in order to become absent, to disappear. So the ultimate reason for domestic space, it's the need to be able to disappear, and to disappear not only from the city, but to disappear in front of ourselves. And this, and I mean, and of course, this kind of disappearing doesn't mean that we are inhabiting during dream and during sleep a space which is in a way void, because it's a highly populated space, full of things, full of people, full of animals, and so on. But the bed and sleeping and dreaming is what a home allows us to do, and it's in a way the most radical, the most fundamental freedom we have. It's the freedom of disappear. And in a world of global surveillance, it will be increasingly important to create, in a way, underwater space bubble in which it is possible not to be present. And so from this point of view, we have to build homes which has to be increasingly an access key in which we disappear and in which we make the world disappear. We have to reinvent homes as spaces of common, if you want, and shared disappearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emanuele Cocha, for this very inspiring speech. And I think that tonight when we'll go to bed and we will leave ourselves on, it will be a stranger experience than usual. Thank you to the European delegation again, and thank you to our audience. And I wanted to remember to everyone that the European Literary Festival will go on until November 26th. Thank you and bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.